Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got the G20 Leaders Declaration, fresh from the Rio Summit in November 2024. It's dense stuff, as always. So our mission today, to really cut through that density and pull out the vital insights for you. What's actually new?
Exactly. And Brazil, as the host nation, they really set the tone with this big motto, building a just world and a sustainable planet. Quite ambitious. We're going to look at the three core priorities they laid out, and importantly, how they see these huge global challenges as interconnected.
Okay, let's dive into that first one. Social inclusion and the fight against hunger and poverty. They were pretty blunt about the situation, weren't they? Mentioning that only at, 17% of the Sustainable Development Goals are on track?
Just 17%, yeah. And that figure alone tells you a lot. Nearly half showing minimal progress, and over a third actually stalled or gone backwards.
It really paints a picture. So what's the human side of that statistic?
Well, the human impact is stark. We're talking 733 million people facing hunger in 2023. It's a massive number. And the G20's response, their concrete action, is launching this global alliance against hunger and poverty.
A global alliance? What does that actually involve?
The idea is to mobilize finance, yes, but also knowledge to support country-led programs. Think things like cash transfers, school feeding programs. And here's something quite noteworthy. They're explicitly talking about new avenues for international tax cooperation.
Tax cooperation? How so?
Specifically aiming to make sure ultra-high net worth individuals are, and I quote, effectively taxed. The stated goal is reducing inequalities.
Effectively taxed. That's a phrase with a lot packed into it. Tackling structural inequality via tax definitely sounds like a significant discussion point.
Yeah.
Okay, so after addressing hunger and poverty, they pivoted to arguably an equally massive challenge: sustainable development, energy transitions, and climate action.
Right. And they started by reaffirming that commitment to the Paris Agreement's 1.5 degrees Celsius goal. No surprises there, but still crucial.
But beyond reaffirming, were there specific targets?
Yes, and quite ambitious ones. They've agreed to triple renewable energy capacity globally by 2030.
Triple? Wow.
Triple. And alongside that, double the global average annual rate of energy efficiency improvements also by 2030.
Those are some concrete numbers.
They are. And it connects to another commitment, one we've heard before, phasing out inefficient fossil fuel subsidies that encourage wasteful consumption.
Yes, the fossil fuel subsidies pledge. That one dates back to, Pittsburgh in 2009?
Exactly. So the big question it raises is, what makes this time different? How will they actually implement it now? It's a long-standing challenge.
A fair question.
Yeah.
And did they touch on other environmental issues?
Yes, they also really emphasized ending plastic pollution. The aim is for a legally binding international instrument on that by the end of 2024.
Okay, legally binding. That's a strong commitment. So massive undertakings on climate and environment, which maybe explains the third priority.
Precisely. The third piece is the reform of global governance institutions. They're saying these reforms are essential if we're going to tackle today's crises, including, geopolitical tensions.
So it's about making the global machinery fit for purpose.
That's the idea. They're calling for transformative reform of the UN Security Council, for instance, making it more representative, more inclusive. They explicitly mention regions like Africa, Asia-Pacific, and Latin America needing a greater voice there.
And any concrete steps already taken?
Well, yes. A specific achievement highlighted was creating a 25th chair at the IMF Executive Board. That's specifically to boost the voice and representation of sub-Saharan Africa.
That sounds significant.
It is. And related to that, the African Union was welcomed as a full member of the G20 itself. That really amplifies Africa's position.
So broadening the table, what else under governance?
They also touched on artificial intelligence, AI. The focus is on leveraging it for good, but doing so safely and transparently with international cooperation. They pointed to principles like the UNESCO recommendation on ethics of AI as a guide.
Right, AI governance, another huge, complex area for international agreement.
Okay, so pulling this all together for you, our listener. Under Brazil's leadership, the G20 has put forward this quite comprehensive roadmap, commitments across social inclusion, climate, governance reform.
It lays out a vision, certainly. But it leaves us with a crucial question, doesn't it? If these huge challenges, hunger, climate, governance, are all interlinked, as the G20 says,
right,
what will it actually take for these nations to move beyond the declarations on paper to real, sustained action on the ground, especially in, let's face it, a very complex world?
A critical question indeed, something we'll definitely be tracking.
And we'll see how the agenda evolves as South Africa takes the G20 presidency in 2025 and then the United States in 2026. The follow-through is key.